Okay, this is the STARS presentation for February 4th, 2023. We have a special guest, Bart W9 Julia from the ARRL. He's here to talk about Logbook of the World, LoTW. And for those that might not know, it's an electronic QSLing system. There are several out there for different needs, but ARRL is unique and really cool. Thank you, Bart, for being here. And also, just want to say, I hope you're going to also talk a little bit about LoTW for connected to awards. So you have till about you got about 30 minutes or so.
Okay.
Total. Take her away, Bart.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. We'll try to make sort of this the nickel tour. The Logbook of the World system, created some 20 years ago, was recognized as a means to make the QSLing process more contemporary, obviously to reduce costs for people who didn't feel the need that they needed to share QSL cards with every QSO. Still, certainly, that is an active component of our hobby today, and we all treasure some of those rare QSL cards, the first contact on a band, the first EME contact, all of those things. We treasure them and certainly love them in print form. When it comes to the volume of QSOs that people engage in these days, it can be very costly. Logbook of the World is a means to confirm QSOs and make them QSLs without that cost per se. You don't have to be a member to use Logbook of the World. You do have to be a member or pay a larger fee in the case of like DX participants if the interest is in seeking an award. So for those who are looking to get started into Logbook of the World, a couple of different ways to get there. You can get there from our main site at arrl.org/quick start. But again, you can drill down through the on the air menu and get the Logbook of the World, and it'll bring you here. And then as you scroll down, it gives you links to get started into the various pages that are relevant to signing up for and using Logbook of the World. I left this second window open here. Well, but to make a long story short, if you haven't installed Logbook, this will get you to that point in the process. And I'm just clicking on a couple of links here, getting started. It talks about downloading and installing TQSL. TQSL is a resident application that runs on your computer. It's a bit old school. We're working on a more contemporary mobile and web-based authentication process. But in this case, it creates essentially a lock file that's embedded in your computer, and then you request a certificate. That's the key. When the certificate is requested, email is sent with the key, you install it, and then you have a secure encrypted upload of all of your QSOs into Logbook of the World. So again, just mentioning what some of those options are. We have access for Mac, we have access for Linux, and of course, Windows from early versions all the way up to Windows 11. So if you haven't done that, you can access TQSL through the ARRL website, and that will get you started. You can send me questions, w9jj@arrl.org or lotw-help@arrl.org. Moving on to the slide presentation. Is this now sharing as well, Barry?
No, we're just still seeing the other one. So close it, open it again.
Okay, so give me just a second to actually stop sharing and now go ahead and share this next screen with you. And great. So once you're set up with Logbook of the World, and you are interested in doing things with awards. In fact, I should one other screen before this. This is a little disjointed. I had it more set up as the awards part of it and a little less set up as the, sort of steps to get there. But if you allow me a moment, we'll do that as well. So the application that runs on your desktop is the TQSL app. And then there is a second page, if you will. It's a web page, and it's your dashboard to Logbook of the World. So,
sorry for the interruption. You're still showing it says viewing LoTW?
I understand.
Yeah, so
Just one moment.
continue. Thank you.
Share, and we're going to go here next. All right, share. Here comes the web-based one. So when you have the web app, what'll happen is you'll get a certificate. It'll have an instruction on how to install it. It'll give you a username and it'll give you a password. And in doing so, it will give you credentials to access your dashboard. So entering my credentials, and this is an example of what you will get once you're in the Logbook of the World dashboard. So I'm seeing some of the users on my right side of the of our. Let me see if I can minimize this. Okay, you'll see in the upper right-hand corner, it gives the call sign of your username. It gives a tally in this example one that I'm showing you. By the way, for any of you who are statisticians, there's currently 1.6 billion QSOs in Logbook of the World. 363,000 have matched for QSLs. Again, that percentage seems a little weak, but remember, these are QSOs going back to 1945. And not everything matches. About 167,000 users have signed up, and of them, they have about 239,000 call sign certificates that are being used for Logbook of the World. Once you're actually into Logbook of the World and you've uploaded QSOs, you can then display those QSOs under that Your QSOs tab and start looking at what you would see. So here's some examples in my case, going back a couple of years for this demonstration. And so you'll see that there's a call sign, mine, the person I worked, frequency, date and time, band, and a mode. The frequency in this case is based on satellites, but let's go to the second one. 8P5 alpha, 20-meter phone, Barbados. So what happened is I uploaded this QSO, but my QSO partner did not upload some. In the case of 8P5A, he uploaded a matching QSO. When it did, it turned into a QSL, and it'll look something like this on your screen. And this says the QSL was made as of March 7th of 2019. So my information, his information, and then it finds its way into your awards queue. So if I go to my W9JJ DXCC and I look at mixed and I look at Barbados, all credits, I will see it in the list of countries under Barbados. In this case, it's actually, I don't know if it was AP6ET, it was actually a different one. But I had Barbados through a different contact. But when I click on it, again, I can see what country I actually got the QSL with. So anyway, it's just sort of an overview to let you know the screens that you're going to see as a part of this system. And again, it'll list the countries, it'll list the QSO call signs, and that's just for mixed DXCC. You can break it out to phone if you want to see what it looks like, and we'll come to the awards screens here next. So again, countries confirmed on phone. Maybe your interest is in worked all states, so you can actually look at your WAS account, see how you're doing with that. Oh, I didn't actually set up for this demonstration the actual WAS profile. So there are award rules, and that's something to be aware of, and we'll talk about in the award side as well. It's not going to show you anything unless you give it award rules for it. One of the reasons that we're giving this award rule is because WAS is based on a 50-mile circle. So if you operate from multiple states, the circle changes. So you might have a worked all states for Nevada. You might have worked all states for California if you travel there. Maybe if you travel east, you'll have another worked all states. So the bottom line is that you'll have all these different 50-mile circle versions of your WAS account. So you can actually have multiple WASs from different locations. So again, then a breakdown for the different bands, the different modes, different forms of WAS mixed. And the same might be true if you're a VUCC person, maybe chasing satellite awards. So again, just keep these in mind as you're going through your profiles. And these award rules in this example are vary based on what, if you move around. VUCC is based on a 124-mile circle. So just keep that in mind as you set up your award rules. You might want to set them up based on your grid square for VUCC. That way you can kind of figure out, okay, what was in my 124-mile circle and what wasn't. Let me go on now into the award system itself. So bear with me while I stop sharing and switch screens. Barry, if you have in chat any questions that come up, we can try to address them in real time, or we can at the end. All right, is that sharing okay?
Yep.
Okay,
yes.
So this is a PowerPoint, and Barry, I can send this over to you, and you can put it someplace where your members can also see it. So this will be something that you can use perpetually if you would like to. So
That'd be great.
And we're in normal view. Okay. So this is just a quick PowerPoint on viewing your Logbook DXCC account and applying for award credit. Much of this is coming out of the help that is directly in Logbook of the World. So if you actually went to Logbook and you were going to seek assistance in awards, for example, you could go into the search box where my mouse is right here and look at award credit and applying for awards, and it would give you most of the instructions that we're going to go through here. So there are links that you can use to check view your various DXCC and other award statuses. And those links are in the help, but they're also in this presentation, and you can follow it if you like of this. Your first steps are to actually link your award account to your call sign or call signs. Some people have multiple call signs. They'll have an old call, and then they'll have upgraded. All of the call signs that are relevant to you can be used toward your awards from your very earliest call signs. The key here is that you actually upload QSOs based on those call signs, that you upload them obviously into Logbook of the World. And then view your award credits, as we were just looking at a little bit ago. Your award account status, we'll talk about those here as we switch screens. Logbook can't be used to confirm mixed mode QSOs. So just be aware of that. Split band, split mode. If one guy uploads a CW QSO and you upload phone, this could be VHF, for example. You know, you're trying to make that weak signal VHF 2-meter sideband contact. You're not quite getting his report. He switches to CW. You guys confirm the QSO, but in the end, if you upload it as sideband, he uploads to CW, it doesn't confirm. The criteria for a contact is, again, the other person's call sign and yours, date, time, band, and mode. So if any of those change and you upload it again, it actually will create a duplicate QSO.
Is that within 30 minutes, plus or minus 30 minutes?
Yes, I'm sorry. And While we don't anticipate people will have differences in times, yes, make sure your logging is accurate. I think our digital world has emphasized that for us now greater, because if you try to do decode, say on FT8, if you aren't within between a second or two, you're going to hear the signal, but it's not going to decode on your screen because your time and the other station's time don't agree. So be sure your clocks are set accurately to the second. So you'll end up logging into to get into the award profiles. You'll log into your account based on that information that I gave you earlier. You'll click on the award tab, which I showed you. You'll look at your various DXCC accounts or worked all states or VUCC, worked all prefixes or worked all zones, which are CQ awards. And so you'll drill down as you work into those. As you go to an award, we talked about DXCC a little bit ago, it will then come up with a profile. It'll give you these choices along the side, and then you'll see, remember how I showed you the various either mixed modes or bands, and you can start looking at your profiles as you scroll down. You'll notice over here, and this happens to be AA6YQ's example that Dave Bernstein set up a few years ago. He had multiple call signs that are all contributing to his DXCC. So as he uploads QSOs, they begin to populate the left column here, which is new QSLs that he has attained in the logbook system. He may have, during the process of that, say this one QSO, he will go in and make an application. There's a 12-cent cost for applying the credit. It'll show over here then during that process. And finally, when we process it, it'll increment this 318 up to 319 at some. And finally, it shows your totals, all with presumably the goal of either attaining a very high country count or maybe even seeking honor roll at above 340. Going on, again, we're just looking at some of the highlighted columns here. Column A being your DXCC account, column C here being the breakout of the QSOs by band, that's the QSLs, and B over here being your actual call signs that are crediting these QSOs. And if you should have, a new certificate, maybe you change call signs, the process of seeking a new certificate will link your new call sign to the other ones. But if for whatever reason that doesn't happen, you drop us an email and for you. Again, we talked about A being the account, B being the call signs, and C being the various band or mode accounts. And we talk about this here again, and this PowerPoint will be available to you. So you can follow it as a one by one. Again, new QSLs entered, which was that left column, QSLs in process, which are those which you've put into an award, haven't been given the credit yet because we haven't processed it. And then finally, credits awarded and the total. Then you're able to actually look at a credit matrix, which will show you a breakout based on country and then modes or bands. So you can actually see how you're doing in a display fashion. And, some people maybe focus only on HF, others might focus on VHF, some focus only, I'm DXing or seeking awards is only one of many things that I do because I'm also a participant in public service. So their interest may only be, getting DXCC, and mixed may be the only category of interest. For printing the matrix, again, you can click in the upper right-hand corner of that previous page, the note scroll, highlight it all, and then you can paste that into say an Excel file if you want to, or you can download an ADIF file of the content and bring it into your award software. Again, a lot of people do different award, I should say, logging software. things like N3FJP, HC log, maybe N1MM, maybe HRD, but you have the ability to import into those various programs if you're tracking these activities not within Logbook World. Logging into your account, we talked about that earlier with your username and password, selecting the award of interest. Remember, I clicked on DXCC earlier. Looking at your account credits, remember how I showed you, you could choose then the category. You could select the category to view. You can sort it by name or by prefix if you wanted to see that. And again, this is just a verbal definition of the pending credit column was the column, first left column that we saw earlier, which showed there were credits, but you hadn't yet been awarded them. That was this one over here. Oops, sorry. Need to go up. So again, pending credits are these that you've QSL confirmed, but it hasn't been applied for yet under an award, which would be this application up here. So we'll just step back to where we were. So again, you could break it out, like I said, by band. Then you could select, country. Remember how I showed you how you could view the actual country and the call sign that you had credit for, how it actually displays on your screen. By the way, if you go into one of your awards at some point and you see that you have country credit and you click on the call sign, but you see just an abbreviated black box, maybe about half the size of this box, and it says a call sign, the country, and a date, and it may say band or mode, that means that that credit was uploaded manually by our staff into your Logbook account from a QSL card, not from an electronic exchange between two parties. So if you see just an abbreviated box with 4 or 5 entries, that was entered manually, probably based on a QSO that's going back 20 some years ago. So again, you would end up selecting the DXCC award that you wanted to view, in this case, 10 meters. You can apply for the award credit, again, log into your account, selecting the award tab of interest, and in the Logbook ARRL DXCC account section on the left, you would again select it, and you'd realize, okay, I want to seek an application. See how this is bold. Once you click on that, it will begin an application process. Parts. The first part is it will show you what you can begin applying for based on what credits you have available, but that you haven't applied it and purchased yet. And credits are 12 cents each. It's a way, obviously, of Logbook paying for itself. Entity column, identifying confirmed QSOs, QSO column, giving you the call sign and a hyperlink to it. And again, you can check all the hyperlink columns with the checkbox, checking each row if you want. Again, over here, if you hit check all, it will begin a process of applying toward credit for NAVASA for all of these different band modes that you were eligible for. Again, just sort of verbal instructions. So checking all, updating and saving the selections. The next page then is going forward with your award application. Don't worry about this question. I think we've taken it out, but there was a time where we'd say if you had made multiple applications during a year, the fee structure was slightly different. That's changed. It is still a part of that. Next, where was it? Down bottom. Are you a member? And this is where the fees will differ. If you're a foreign person or a non-member, you can still apply for awards, but there will be a checkbox, and this drives a cost. Typically, in order to get an award in the United States, you need to be a member of ARRL, but in the case of DX stations, you can still get the awards, but there's a higher fee for them. And then it talks about this as the fee system. Again, for you, but that's basically instructions on that. The award application part 3. How many QSO new credits have you selected? In this case, 4 new credits were. It asks for the applicant's all name, address, email address, and this is a verbal description of that. The next thing is it identifies the fees. So an application fee, a credit slip fee, buying three of the credits was decided in this case by Dave when he did the example. And it shows you a total. It moves on. If you're a Diamond Club member, there's no fee for the application because of your high status as one of the higher category of members or Maximum Society. You can pay by mail or fax with a credit card rather than online, else you can just pay right online with your application. I talked about the fee, $650, submit application. And then when you're in your Logbook account, you will actually be able to see under the application history, the applications that either you had submitted earlier that were done or applications that are pending. And in this case, all of them have been processed. It shows the number of QSOs or QSLs, I should say, that were a part of the application. If you had paper QSOs that you also had QSL cards for, we even note that. So sometimes somebody will use a hybrid. They'll have cards that came in on paper that will have been checked by a card checker or checked at headquarters. They may combine that with a online QSOs confirmed through Logbook. So in essence, they'll have potentially, in this case, it'll be all paper cards, or in some cases, there'll be a mix. Maybe this was all Logbook here. This had 0 paper cards. So you see various variations on a theme here based on what the combination was. Finally, it'll show you a summary of that application and what you paid, where it was going to get shipped to, if it's a new certificate or endorsement, and then the countries that were credited as a part of that application. And you can click on these to see the QSL information. And that's the last slide I actually had as a part of this. Our processing time right now is about 3 weeks, give or take. There does seem to be a bigger demand at the end of the year. And you can also see applications that are pending in the application system. It's on our website. I can actually potentially take you to that if we had time. Right now, it looks like I've used up my time. But if you go to ARRL.org, to the award system, to DXCC, and there will be links over on the left-hand side of the page that you're normally accustomed to, you'll see a link that said applications pending.
Okay, thank you so much, Bart. I have one question, and then we'll queue up a couple of questions, maybe here and online. We have to push a button here on muting back and forth. Thank you so much. That's very helpful. I have 2 questions, generalized. One is I hear a number of people in the ham community that say they find LoTW to be cumbersome. I mean, sometimes they use other words, but cumbersome. And so I want to ask you about that. And in the second part of that is I had heard from Tony W7XM, who happens to be on our board here, but also he's the vice director of the Pacific Division. So he told us that maybe they're doing a facelift or a redo. So if you can address that briefly, thank you.
Sure, absolutely. So Tony is a member of our Logbook of the World Working Group or Working Committee. And as such, Tony has the inside track on word I would look for, understanding what we're actually up to. We have been talking for the last couple of years about a facelift or a revampment, if you will, of the Logbook of the World system. Again, we're in a system that now is going on 20 plus years old. The development began back in about 2000. And in that process, obviously, it had to be built. And then when it was built, it got implemented by 2003. So we're dealing with a system that's old school. And when you have 1.5 billion QSOs in the system, you have to recognize that building both on a database and a GUI front-end application takes time. Right now, we're reviewing with people available to us IP resources internally and externally on the database side. And then there's going to be efforts to revamp the front side, which is the GUI side, for the user experience. It doesn't happen overnight. I suspect we're talking probably about a 2-year project, give or take. But a lot of work has to be done. We meet monthly. Kristen McIntyre is also on the committee, the ARRL director for the Pacific Division. Mickey Baker is on the committee. He's the Southeast Division director. And then several others, Rick Murphy, who wrote TQSL, Doug Heaney, who's one of our internal IT persons, Steve Berry, who you may not have heard of yet, but you're going to hear more about, is the new director of IT at ARRL, and One Echo Zulu. These will become names if you haven't heard them in conversation, you're going to hear more about. So this is a work in progress. We want to get mobile applications introduced. We want to allow people to begin their getting their certificates set up through a web app rather than through installing software on your computer. And it's an evolving, very in-depth and very exciting activity that's ongoing for us. And by the way, while we were talking, I just shared that link for DXCC applications received. And this is only DXCC, but it gives you an idea of what's been received, what's in the queue, sorted by call sign. So as you submit applications, you can scroll and see that your application was received, and essentially it's a receipt date. We're out approximately 3 weeks. You can see some of these are a little bit older, but it may be because the application is either lacking information or it may not have been paid for yet. There may have been a submission January 3rd, but if it didn't include the fee payment, or if there is a credit, a QSO credit question, it's going to keep it in a little longer.
Okay, really good. Let's see if there's one question maybe here. Anybody have a specific question for Bart? No questions at the moment. Okay, just that's here. And on the Zoom side, does anybody have a question for Bart? If you do, just open your mic and give your call. Okay, not hearing anything. Thank you so much, Bart. I appreciate it. I know there's it's a big system, and what I'll say is it's not perfect. I'm glad that they're looking at redoing some of it, making the user interface good. Personally, having done QSL cards on paper for years, it's time consuming as heck. Then it's kind of pretty manual. Then I gotta spend a lot of money. What's the cost of stamp today? 62 cents if we're lucky, plus in each way. And then what is it? Whatever, a lot. And it's the postcard. I mean, it's very laborious and expensive. So for me, electronic is just beautiful. And I'm slow. I haven't gotten all this on here. So thank you so much, John. Let's see. I'm not John N3 JWN said thanks for the updates. Anything you want to say in closing, Bart?
The page I was just on allows people to see what their current country totals are. Those of you who are big DXCC chasers on the various bands know that this page is out there, and you can see as the tallies increase, you can see obviously even down to the level of 100 countries as you scroll down through this list, just mixed DXCC. But this is updated every night, and this page shows people their current country rankings. So if you worked 100 countries on DXCC, or you went from say, I don't know, 107 up to 108. You'll find your call sign in the 108 table after that application is processed, or you'll find yourself at the top of the list. Or if you're one of the people on the higher frequencies, like 70 centimeters, you'll be able to look and see what the rankings are for DXCC on 432, for example. You'll recognize some of these call signs, DL9KR, KR, K2UIH, etc. Anybody ever hear of DL7APV? No? Look up QRZ, DL7APV. He has I believe it's 120 Yagi array for 432 moonbounds. So 120 Yagis in Germany.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty interesting stuff. I visit and operate periodically from November Charlie 1 India, NC1I. You can look him up on QRZ as well. Until DL7APV, he had the largest array with 48 end-mounted Yagis that had as-L and polarity rotation. And also he does 1296 with it.
Okay, thank you so much, Bart. Sure appreciate it. And just double check, and we'll set it up again so we can hear you on our end. Your email, just to confirm, is whiskey9 at ARRL.org. Is that correct?
You betcha. Or LoTW-help, ARRL.org.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks to your team out there. Bad news travels fast, good news travels slow. And, it just didn't in life. So we want to pass along some good news and appreciation from the Sierra Nevada Amateur Radio Club. We're a special, somebody helps in a special service club with the ARRL. So thank you so much, Bart. I'll connect with you later. And yes, send us the slides and we'll make it available. Anything you want to say, and we're going to wrap it up and close it.
Good to go, guys. Feel free to reach out to VOTA, VOTA at ARRL.org with your questions about VOTA. That falls into my camp as well as radio sport manager. For you, those of you who are volunteer examiners and all the other many categories of volunteer, thank you for what you do. The VOTA activity is about celebrating the contributions that you have made and you continue to make as volunteers. Some of you are VEs, probably have a VE certificate on the wall from days gone by that even has my name on it, because 15 years and days gone by was the VEC manager.
That's great. Thank you so much, Bart, and appreciation. Going to be it on our end. Thanks. And this completes the SNARS presentation for Logbook of the World. Thank you, Bart, W9JJ, and appreciate everybody here at SNARS.